Welcome back to The Detective is Already Dead. Anime Review episode number 5. This is discussing the last 2 episodes of the anime Detective is Already Dead. Yes, which these episodes finish up pretty much not only book 1, but also book 2 of the series. Yes. Yep. Now, pretty much on the way, we do a little bit of flashback in here. Basically, what happened just after what we saw in episode 9. We got a little bit of explanation for that. Yes, it's a bit of a flashback. Basically, I'll explain that first. Basically, the flashback, pretty much in a way, does kind of explain what kind of happened just after Kumi got knocked out. Actually, it was just after Hell got injured because it cut straight to the present day. Here, they actually explained that apparently Seska, this is just after Hell took her part and put it in her body, Seska briefly took control of Hell's body and basically gave him some advice, and of course, basically also knocked him unconscious, obviously. And she also revealed something in the final episode that the person he's going to be set to find when he wakes up is going to be Nagasaki, the woman he's been interacting with since episode 2 of the series. So that kind of explains that. And we even see briefly Hell's head, even though her eyes, you know, we can tell it is Seska because the eyes. That's the only way to tell Seska's body. At one point, it looks like that her hair changed to basically how Seska's regular body is. Which, in case you're curious, though, does the series ever give Seska's real name? Because they mentioned that her name is an alias. Like, you're probably thinking, okay, so do they ever explain what her real name is? The answer is no. No, she doesn't. Though some of the stuff basically comes after during a big battle that happens over the course of these last couple episodes. Yeah, then she just disappears, and supposedly she basically fights in Alicia's body, which Hell basically shares it with, where she basically suppresses Hell's personality in order to basically make sure Alicia's personality survives. What happens to Hell after basically where Kumi's on her lap the whole period of time? What happens after this? Never explained. I don't know if it's explained in book 3 because I haven't read book 3 yet. If it is, do not spoil it. Those of you who watched it. So then we come back to present day. We pick up right where episode 10 left off, with Nagasaki being being held hostage by Chameleon with his little tentacle stuff. And you're thinking, like, oh, because he got to think about, is he going to basically shed her clothes and grope her? Nope. But that's the usual trope when it comes to tentacles in anime. Yes, that is a very common trope. Yeah, so basically, Kumi's like, I made a decision, so he shoots Chameleon's arm, which drops Nagasaki, looks like she's about to jump in the water, but lucky enough, Yui comes along with a boat and a trampoline, basically like an inflatable mattress for her to land on. And then, of course, you have Kumi firing his gun up at Chameleon, who, by the way, has transformed into a giant, like, man lizard with a tail that can turn into a freaking spike. Gets a pretty. At one point, he runs out of bullets, and like all hope is lost. And then Charlotte comes up, shows up completely out of nowhere with a freaking helicopter, and fires a Tommy gun at her at Chameleon, then a freaking barrel gun with Fubi. By the way, she's piloting the damn thing, and finally to cap it off with, she fires a freaking elephant gun at him, which does injure him, and the battle basically like also destroys the deck that they're on. Goes down like one deck, and of course that's when he flashback the whole thing with Seska happened afterwards. Then of course we see like he looked like he's about to take on Chameleon hand to hand, and then someone fires a shot, and you hear a voice like, "Oh, is that Seska?" No, it's Nagasaki being possessed by Seska, which they do explain. They show us a little bit flashback here that Nagasaki asked for her to possess her in exchange for her to give her dying wish. Basically, how Kumi developed friendship, obviously. And of course, you can kind of think of this as basically her basically giving her like final final regrets. And he, of course, basically brings up the night they spent the night together in bed. And he points out, though, nothing happened. And she's like, because basically she's thinking that they had sex. And according to him, nope, they did not. And she's like, well, I wouldn't have done it with you. And he smiles at that because Jessica was a beautiful woman. And, yep. Then, of course, basically, thanks to firing a bunch more shots and collapsing a freaking ceiling on Chameleon, he's finally killed. And with all that said and done, Fubi, of course, by the way, they have partially burning Chameleon thanks to Fubi using her lighter on like the gasoline that spilled over the deck, basically burning Chameleon, and then the collapsing stuff. And with Chameleon, he's definitely dead after that. He's gone. Completely gone. So apparently her dying wish was to have Kumi and his associate take down Spess. That's basically what she wanted them to do. So we have a scene of, well, Charlotte talking to Kumi, and then, of course, Kumi goes to have a conversation, goes with Yui to buy a suit, which makes him look like a boy next door. Yes, and then, of course, he goes to a bar dressed in a fancy suit. Yes, and Nagasaki doesn't. And, of course, they talk about Happy Four, and they bring up the whole thing of being in bed. And Nagasaki, it's implied that she does want to sleep with him. Like, he's like, grabs his chin, come to my room later. Yep. And then we have basically the end of the episode, kind of how the first episode began. Attention passengers, is there a detective on board? So Kumi and Nagasaki go out to investigate that. And Nagasaki assumes head of legendary detective with this particular thing. Yep. And, well, they're going to continue the friendship for. And, of course, Charlotte's probably going to join them on a regular basis at this point. Now, like I said, I have not read book 3 yet. So, I'm not sure what happens when it comes to that. Yep. But, yeah, really good set of 2 episodes. Does wrap up the series quite nicely. But it does leave it open for season 2. And if you're curious, though, is there material for season 2? Well, I'll discuss that in the next episode. Episode 6. Okay, next video. Bye.